There must be something like 1,000 people standing on top of that amenities block. Referee for the match is Jack Daly, a man who came out of Wednesday night under rather controversial circumstances. And there they are, the Magpies of Western Suburbs. Their captain Warren Boland, Jim Lease playing in the centres as far as we know, Ken Hay at lock. And that little man, Terry Lamb, a Canterbury Bankstown junior, who every time I would think Peter Moore, the Canterbury secretary, puts eyes on him, he has a very heavy headache. He scored 8 tries this year for the Magpies and could well be the rookie of 1980. Defending premiers, St. George, taken out by their captain, Craig Young. Their coach is Harry Bath. And Michael Sorodimi comes onto the flank to replace Mitch Brennan. They won the first round match, as I told you, and Tony Trudgett played his part in that win. He came from Oberon via Thirroul to join the Saints in 1978 and has played for New South Wales against Great Britain in '79 and against Queensland this year. 22-3 was that first round score in favour of the Dragons, and they led 3-2 at half-time before they turned on an incredible second half. And Graham McNeese is placing the ball for the guest kickoff by Katrina Lee. I hope she's got her scripts in order. I wouldn't bend over like that, Katie. And there's her first attempt. She's missed it. My goodness.
Ladies and gentlemen,
she got her contact lenses in. This time she's got it away, but it hasn't gone the required 10. So it's Western Suburbs running from right to left, and down there playing in number 3 jumper for the Magpies is Jim Lease, and you'll see plenty of him. He's wearing a very conspicuous headgear, and there it is. Time on, Western Suburbs and St. George. And Michael Sorodimi, first man to get a touch of the ball and a touch of the Magpies on his own 22 line. Dowling. Donnelly and Merlot hunting as a pair. Dummy half is Buckley. Now Craig Young. St. George in that first round, they virtually played it cool, calm and collected for the first 40 minutes before they tried anything very much. Graham Wynn getting a kick in and a big one, sending it right down and finding touch. What a great kick by Graham Wynn. St. George running with the aid of the breeze in the first half. Quite a breeze too. But that was a heck of a kick by Graham Wynn, probably something like 70 metres. So the first scrum going down about 10 metres away from the Western Suburbs try line. Penalty to the Magpies. St. George penalised for incorrectly forming up in the scrum. And Ron Gitto, the man who has a freakish record of goal kicking this year when he came on, when Wests were in desperate straits, will look for touch. He's kicking into the teeth of a pretty strong wind. Doesn't go for much distance, wisely so, and finds it on his own quarter-way line. Neil, Dallas Donnelly. And Donnelly is met by Craig Young. A rather soft confrontation, though. It's Tom Arbour losing it and picked up by Reddy for St. George. He's held by Neil. They're still charging in, the Magpies, and the penalty goes to the Saints. There's a punch up in the back play. Away from that area, there's a disagreement, which has been quenched fairly quickly, although touch judges going in to make a report. It's a replay of Donnelly being tackled, and then Arbour lost it. And it was from there that Arbour and Young had their disagreement, as several Magpies charged in onto Rod Reddy, and it was from there that the penalty came to St. George. Graham Wynn is the 6th highest point scorer in the league in 1980 with 112 points, scored in only 13 games. He scored 6 tries and 47 goals, and those goals have come from 73 attempts for a success rate of 64%. He's got the strength of the wind behind him for this attempted penalty from 12 metres outside the West 22 line. Hits it sweetly, it's got length, and it's a goal. I tell you what, he didn't have too much length, though, to spare. Scoreboard reads St. George 2, Western Suburbs no score, with Graham Wynn landing first points. Dummy half, Craig Young. Wests hunting in on top of Craig Young, low and high, to keep him from popping that short ball that has proved so dangerous to players like Slippery Morris. Sorodimi now on the touchline on the far side, came away from it, it appeared, like a good winger. Morris, now Wynn, and this very talented boy from up north or northwest, Werris Creek, Rod Reddy's kick now. Going down for John Rebo. Wayne Smith, who has an extravagant step, but John Dowling puts him to ground for Terry Lamb to go to dummy half. And now it's with Warren Boland, who always comes in when he believes a winger can assist his forward pack. A knock on against Jack Jeffries, and the scrum 8 metres on the west side of the halfway. 2-0 in favour of the Saints over the Magpies. We're 8 minutes gone first half. Boland playing it as West win the scrub. Donnelly into Sydney football from Gunnedah, and lost by Jack Jeffries. He's having an unhappy game. But West have got the ball back, and the tackle count has restarted. Boland plays it. There's a scrimmage on over there. A couple of players exchanging punches as Terry Lamb plays the ball, and he's tackled by Jansen. It's with Merlot now. Trudge it over the top. Cooper. Rebo. Tackler was Johnston, along with Graham, the wing three-quarter. Now it's Wayne Smith. And West getting away from their 22 for one of the brief seconds in the game. The very talented and colourful St. George fullback, Brian Johnson. And a good tackle by Warren Boland. That was a corker of a tackle. Graham, son of Brian Graham, a former great St. George fullback. Playing it to Michael Sorodimi, and Graham appears injured. Robert Finch. Oh, the simplest of knock-ons. Oh, that's a bad error. Second tackle of the exchange, and knocking on from a simple pass, a good pass, in fact. Jack Danzy warning Alan Neal to get his hand off the rump of the lock forward. Oh, jolting tackle, and St. George, though they lost the scrum, have got possession on the first tackle. Again, a bad mistake by Western Suburbs. But it was a jolting tackle that brought about the Western Suburbs mistake. Played by Buckley. Morris. Johnston, the centre. Tidied up by Gitto. St. George now. 10 metres out from their own quarter line. Young. Bullocking ahead. Tackler was Ken Hay. Morris. Trudgett. Ready. Robert Finch. Away from Boland's tackle. Sorodimi to the halfway line, and across in cover out there is Terry Lamb. Ready. And he's made a meal of it. And it's a West ball, fair ball too. Well, the wind actually created that problem for Rod Reddy, but then he got a bad bounce. Ken Hay now, on the halfway line exactly. Merlot. Rebo. Graham the tackler, so he appears okay again. Jeffries. Smith. Turning St. George around with a towering pump into the breeze, and Johnson's put it down. Referee Danzy ruling that it went backwards. Sorodimi inside the quarter, about 4 metres. Young. Ready. Wynn. Cooper and Donnelly in the tackle. Coming over the top, third man was Merlot, and there was a swinging arm. And Graham Wynn is smiling. Oh, now Donnelly lets one go from the ground. In the meantime, Bob Cooper is being spoken to by Danzy. And so a bit of stick in the game. Played under extreme pressure, I would think. They're playing it like a grand final. It's got its share of errors to be expected when the pressure is high. Trudgett, just near the halfway line, playing it back to Steve Morris. A penalty to the Saints, inside the 5 against an over-enthusiastic Western Suburbs side. Too many samples before this match because that kick has got length, but no, the direction was off. But he has kicked a goal earlier on. As Rebo, oh, he's left a trail of Saints behind him. And that's a charge down for St. George, and Steve Morris turns them around. Down to the 22 line, lost, and Jeffries has it for the Magpies. Gitto, Merlot, a dummy on the outside, and then driven like a stake into the ground by Graham Buckley. He's a good player, Buckley. Lamb, kick for that touchline. I think he'll find it. He has, in front of Brian Johnson, and a scrum 5 metres St. George's side of halfway. Kick for touch. Oh, unsuccessful. That's a bad mistake for St. George. Wayne Smith out to Merlot. Now it's Merlot working it out to his own 22, away from John Dowling. Merlot stepping nicely. Good run by the former Penrith player. Now about 8 metres out from their quarter line. It's out with Jim Lease. Lease stood and was absolutely, well, nearly praying for somebody to arrive. They came too late. Merlot, a long pass, and that seemed to be knocked on, but referee Danzy said no, backwards, and Donnelly it is, recovering for Western Suburbs. Getting dark here at Lidcombe. That's being brought about by the sun going behind a bank of rather ominous-looking clouds. This man looks ominous for St. George. It's Bob Cooper. Coming on the inside is Smith. He'll pass, will he? Oh, Gitto has put it down. Well, Cooper seemed to have an age to do something about either giving it left or right. I must say I felt he probably should have tucked his head back and took off. A replay of the incident. The break. We'll have to come back live though, because Alan Neal is almost through Terry Lamb correction. Very close to the line. That's the risk you run when you start showing replays. Gitto now. Back to Merlot. Merlot is 8 metres out from the line. Western Suburbs crowd now. Donnelly taking it about 7 metres out from the line. Here's Ken Hay now. Off a Jack Jeffries pass. Progress halted about 7 metres out from that line. Graham Buckley was the chief tackler. And Jeffries knocked it backwards, says Danzy. Neal. A long ball for Cooper. Back to Neal. And has he got it down? No, he's lost the ball. Oh, panic stations for the Saints. Sorodimi to play it. A penalty to the Dragons. And there's those black, ominous clouds that I was telling you about. They're banking up and coming in from the west. And by Jove, I tell you what, there's going to be a lot of wet tails here at Lidcombe if it does decide to drop something on us. That man for St. George receiving attention. Graham Wynn. Young, Jansen, 7 metres short of the halfway line. Played back to Dowling. Morris to the blind. Wynn back on his feet, and Jim Lease picked him up and drove him. Lease, as you know, oh, he'll get pinged for that. He has. It's a penalty against the Magpies. Well, the crowd not liking it, but it was quite obvious that Danzy had to give the penalty to St. George. And Philip Graham comes across to take the kick for touch. He's not long been in the top grade St. George side, Philip Graham. And so the place free kick taken by John Dowling, given up to Sorodimi. And St. George back near the 22 line. Western Suburbs into the field. Morris showing it twice, then to Trudgett, now to Buckley. And Buckley! A few metres inside the quarter-way line. Least the final tackler. Dowling, Young, ready. Here comes Jansen. That's him in 13. And the Magpies are now called upon to defend. And how? Craig Young. Young goes himself. Turns it for Robert Finch. He basketballs it for Brian Johnston. That's a try for mine. I'm looking at the touch judge. He seemed to put a hand up and then took it down again. I think it's a try. It is. Yes, a try to the Dragons. They lead 5-0 in Channel 10's big game. Well, I hope this replay will show what I think I saw. I'm just wondering whether we're wide enough on it. We watch the touch judge on the touch line. There he is, the man I'm talking about. Bottom right of screen. Watch him. It looked a fair try. Oh, we've gone to a close-up shot. It may come up on the head-on. There's no doubt it's a try, don't get me wrong. But I think he went to put his flag up. Craig Young looks around him and finds Robert Finch, and look at that. A basketball one over the top to Johnston. 7-point lead would be handy for St. George, because I feel they're going to need every one of them. The kick is wide. Kick very wide. And so 5-0 in favour of St. George. 26 minutes gone, first half in Channel 10's big game. I wouldn't think that St. George would be all that happy with only a 5-point lead, if that be the case. Just outside the 22 line now. Dowling. Playing it back to Graham Buckley. Morris on the blind side with Reddy coming on the inside. Now Craig Young. Now John Jansen putting it down. Jim Lees picks it up for the Magpies. Turns defence into attack. And midway between the 22 and the halfway line, that's Western Suburbs in possession now. St. George is into the ground. Donnelly pops it back for Paul Merlo. Merlo finds Alan Neal, and Neal is swamped 5 metres inside the quarter-way line. St. George briefly at 6s and 7s. Ken Hay. Wayne Smith is coming on the outside, but Hay is well tackled by Reddy and by Trudgett. West now with Lamb away to Tom Arbour. Centre field, 8 metres inside the 22 line. Lamb, the kick. Cooper's going after it, and it's come down off St. George, and they forced it. I thought for a moment Philip Graham and Brian Johnston, who both went up simultaneously, had collided in midair, and it was going to be a snack really for Bob Cooper. Such wasn't the case. They recovered quickly enough, the Saints, to save the three-pointer. Here's the replay of what could nearly have been a try, just as easily as not. Look at that. Two men who didn't call one another, obviously. But Graham recovered quickly, and so did Steve Morris. We're back with West in possession now. 10 metres on St. George's side of the halfway for Paul Merlo to make another bust, and he's played well. Terry Lamb, can he pass it? He does to Neal. Neal is tackled by Buckley. Donnelly is the dummy half now. Ken Hay. And Hay, midway between the 22 and the halfway line, St. George's into the ground. Donnelly. Lease is lurking in the wings, waiting for the ball, but Donnelly is well and truly parcelled up. Lamb. Cooper, who made that long run for West earlier on, a run which I thought maybe he would have been better off going on with it. A penalty now to West, so that brings a roar from the home crowd. I wouldn't like to say exactly how many are here, but I envisage it's up around 19,000. They're just shocked in here. Damsey indicating the touch judges behind the uprights for the kick by Ron Gitto. Gitto works for the Water Board. Came from the local junior side Homebush Rams to grade in '73. Kicker hits it. And away for Robert Finch to take it out for the Saints. Dowling, Buckley. Craig Young. Philip Graham. Into touch. And a scrum will go down just on the goal line side of St. George's quarter. Same tunnel. And West a penalty. Feed across. So Gitto will have another chance now to take a shot for goal. Craig Young, the St. George captain, right up there in the Dally M series, Craig Young. Well, that's how Ron Gitto sees the uprights. There's the kick floating. Oh, it's unorthodox, but I tell you what, it counts. It counts 2 points. And in Channel 10's big game, the Dragons and the Magpies, it's St. George 5, West 2. So Wynn restarts for St. George. Sending it down into the in-goal area and across the dead ball line, so it'll come back out to the 22 for the Western Suburbs side to restart. The chant is for Magpies. And that's John Donnelly popping it up then for Ron Gitto, but he was well taken by Tony Trudgett. A penalty to West. That's against Reddy, interfering with the man playing the ball. And Gitto will find touch, I would imagine, near the halfway line. Not quite that well. Cooper. Smith up the centre. Just onto St. George's side of the halfway. Merlot. He's had a strong game, Paul Merlot. Alan Neal. Lamb. Gitto. And Boland in from his wing. Lamb. A kick, a torpedo punt. It might be good. Yes, it is. Oh, what a sensational piece of work by Terry Lamb. He's grabbed that breeze going across the ground, and he's got it right behind him to find touch with a great kick, some more 45 metres almost probably. This scrum going down nearly on the St. George line, about 8 metres out. We're 5 minutes out from half time, and Danzy wants it fed in again. St. George 5, Western Suburbs 2 in Channel 10's big game as Morris goes away for St. George. Still deep inside St. George territory, that's Buckley. Hay over the top with Alan Neal. Jansen now. Dowling, Young, Graham Wynn. And they're right on the 22 line now, St. George. Another 10-metre gain by the big second rower. Back to Dowling, away through Young. It's gone over the head of Morris. And it's on the ground. And Lease will score. Yes, that's a try. Jim Lease has picked up the gauntlet and plunged it down. Western Suburbs centre three-quarter Lease capitalising on a St. George mistake. It was a Craig Young pass too, would you believe? That ball over the shoulder of Morris, through the legs of Reddy, and then Jimmy Lease did it the right way. 5-all the scoreline now. With the attempted conversion to come, see it again. Bad luck for the Saints, especially when you consider that a man like Craig Young could throw that pass that would lead to the try. And here's Lease going in to score a Magpie try. They've now scored 65 tries, Western Suburbs. The most of any team in the Premiership. Gitto converts, and Western Suburbs lead St. George coming up to half-time by 7 points to 5. Terry Lamb, the man who put play down where it was for that try to come from Brian Johnson, and a swarm of Magpies in to put the talented St. George fullback to ground. The skies above us looking blacker, if anything. Very threatening as Reddy also looks threatening, and he goes down and looks on the inside for a runner. He's picked up Michael Sorodimi, who's tackled about 7 metres out from the quarter line. Young, Trudgett. Oh, that was a bad pass from Craig Young again. It was at the bootlaces of Trudgett. The first drops of rain here at Lidcombe as the clock shows only 20 seconds to go before half-time. They had planned community singing here at half-time, I tell you what. They'll sound like fish in a goldfish bowl. If these clouds drop what I think they might on us. Lamb, a cross kick, and taken there by Philip Graham, and the siren sounds. That's the end of the first half, and it was a good half of football played in the tension that we expected it would, with Western Suburbs leading St. George 7 points to 5 in Channel 10's big game. So the stage is set for the restart of the match between Wests and St. George, with West leading at half-time 7 points to 5, and St. George running with the breeze. And there's a mistake in the opening kickoff from Wayne Smith. There's the flags indicating the breeze has swung around to be in fact helping St. George in the second half, as it was in the first half. The Lidcombe Oval given a bit of a drenching during half-time, and it has certainly put the knife through a fairly large percentage of this crowd, as St. George come upon a loose ball made possible by Jack Jeffries, who's having an unhappy game, and John Dowling goes from dummy half. He's only about 9 metres out from the West line now. Craig Young is the dummy half, away to Trudgett, and they're right in front of the uprights now, St. George. The ball lost by Trudgett, and Dancy is going to put a scrum down. Neil feeding. And St. George's penalty. A very close proximity to the uprights, as you can see, and almost a presentation for Graham Wynn. A chance to make it 7-all. Just a short stab, and there it is, 2 points. And the scoreline is level at 7 points all between Western Suburbs and St. George. Only 2 minutes gone in the second half. Oh, Jove, that could have been nasty. But Robert Finch did well for St. George. Dowling. Jansen to dummy half. Morris. Morris trying to split them, and he has, towards the halfway line before being tackled by Ron Gitto. Trudgett. Young. Dowling. Ready. A quick ball out there to Graham Buckley, and he'll play it almost on the halfway line. Dowling. Ready. Oh, Ready. I must say in his favour, he has not been getting good passes, but he just seems to have butter on his fingers. As Graham Wynn kicks in general play and has found it. That's a good kick by Wynn, finding touch on the Western Suburbs 22 line. It's a West ball. And Alan Neil having trouble with it. The ball obviously greasy with that rain that fell at half-time. It's still raining, but only sprinkling now. And Ken Hay to play it for Western Suburbs, deep in his own territory. Arbour, who I thought had a quiet first half, Tom Arbour. We've seen him do some good things in recent matches, but I thought a relatively quiet first half today. Paul Merlot now. Wayne Smith. And that kick going down towards rival fullback Brian. Oh, it's taken a right-hand turn and it's beaten Brian Johnson to the touchline on the far side. And Wayne Smith has been felled, apparently after he got his kick in. He's clutching at his knee. And the touch judge has gone in to make a report to referee Jack Danzy. So Danzy will take the play now down and give the penalty to Western Suburbs where the ball found touch. So instead of the scrum to restart, it's the penalty. And Wayne Smith is still receiving attention. Scrums are favouring West's 9-4 in the early part of the second half, and 6-7 they're down. The penalties, St. George 7, West 6 the penalties. Now the place free kick. Will be taken by Jack Jeffries. There's Alan Neil, and now Bob Cooper goes away with it. And intercepted there by Graham Wynn for St. George. And he's pulled down and given a bit of a dust up into the bargain. 9 metres short of the halfway line. Buckley, Young, Trudgett, Lamb and Lease with Ken Hay in there to make the tackle. Dowling, Morris, and the red-headed Alan Neil makes the tackle. Young, Johnston putting it down. It's a Western Suburbs ball. In possession is John Rebo. Tackled by Philip Graham. Donnelly. 11 metres on the St. George side of the halfway. Arbour. Ooh. Neil across Cooper. That man is Rebo. Rebo struggling his way out of a couple of tackles. Plays it just outside the quarter line. Neil, Merlot. There's no gap through there at the moment. Tight in, maybe West should be spinning it out as Neil puts the bomb up, and it's Philip Graham getting it back into the field of play, but only just. Brian Johnson. Tommy Arbour, number 13. Young, ready. Oh, he's juggled it in and given it back for Dowling now to take play just short of the 22 line. Trudgett a dummy half. Young, met by Ken Hay, throws the pass, hopes, and Danzy has ruled a double knock-on. Cooper, I thought, no doubts, knocked on for Wests. And this could prove to be a vital scrum, right on the St. George 22. 7 all. West ball, Lamb. Strong little customer. That's a pretty good trick to brush off Graham Buckley like he did. Well, there's a contest at the play of the ball. It's a penalty to Wests. Repeating, the tries in the match came from Brian Johnston, the centre, at the 25th minute. Gitto's kick successful, and Wests are again in the lead by 9 points to 7. Jim Leese's try for the Magpies came at the 35th minute. 9-7 is your scoreline in the big game, brought to you by Tooth and Company. Jim Leese there with his back to camera in number 3 for West with the headgear and bandages. He suffered a nasty gash in a Tooth Cup match A gash which trainers described as the worst they'd ever treated. Terry Lamb now. Reaching his own quarter line. Dummy half is Jack Jeffries. Merlot. Well, the kick must be on shortly for West. I can see Warren Boland, the winger, taking off downfield already. There it is. Well, it's not as deep a kick as we would think from Wayne Smith. And Philip Graham to play it just into West's side of play. This is Brian Johnston, the try scorer for St. George. Arbour making the tackle. Young. Jansen. Jeffries with a front-on tackle. Good tackle too. Oh. Dowling recovering for St. George. Young. Morris. Morris! Almost away, but Jeffries made the last tackle. This is tackle number 6 now. Quick passing out to Trudgett. And that's the end of 6, and a scrum will go down 8 metres on West side of the halfway, with West leading St. George in the big game here at Lidcombe today by 9 points to 7.
First prize, 40137. First prize, 40137. Second prize.
That scrum tally is almost unbelievable. 10-4, now 11-4 in favour of Western Suburbs. If memory serves me correctly, St. George won the scrums 2-1 in the Tooth Cup clash. Lamb, Lease, Gitto. Gitto bustling his way towards halfway. 4 scrums in a row in the second half of proceedings, all going to Western Suburbs. Merlot. Got a bit of a hurry up from behind from Jansen. Now Lamb. And that kick has gone straight to Brian Johnson. A bad kick by Lamb. This man is talented. Brian Johnson. For consistency alone, he would nearly rate #1 fullback in Sydney this year. He's had a very good year, in my opinion. When you think that Gary Dowling, I think tomorrow is reserved for reserves, and Graham Eadie probably hasn't been the Graham Eadie that we've come to know. Oh, that tackle was high. This will be interesting. He's off. Paul Merlot has been sent from the field of play. Here's the Channel 10 head on. And there goes Merlot. And there is just no doubt that that tackle was dangerously high. And I think you'll find that's the second time that Paul Merlot has been given his marching orders in 1980. We know that Wests are a gutsy side, but with Merlot being one of their better players and off, oh, gee. And so the place free kick on the 22 line. Philip Graham playing it back to John Dowling. Trudgett, Wynn, and Buckley. Buckley scores for St. George. Oh, it looked so easy, didn't it? St. George 10, West 9. Graham Buckley, the try scorer. Here it is. The try from the head on. Morris turned it to Trudgett. Then Wynn pulled Rebo into him, and then Buckley with a right foot step beat Wayne Smith and plunged in. Here's the way the cameras of 10 Sports saw it the first time. It was that last little pass from Graham Wynn. He held it up and drew the defence of Rebo and Donnelly, and then it was Buckley's turn. Recover very quickly from what appeared a rather heavy blow from Paul Merlot. Gave the final pass for the try and then just failed with the conversion attempt. Graham Buckley, who has just not stopped for St. George. rewarded with the try. Graham. Arbour and Hay up in the tackle. Morris. Young. Jansen. Brian Johnson was coming fast, but too late. Morris. Johnston. And no gain in ground. They're still 10 metres out from their 22. Young. Ready. Ready. A one-hander down to Finch. Now it's with Brian Johnston, the centre. Now Finch again. St. George starting to look good, aren't they? Johnston now takes it even further downfield. About 12 metres on the west side of halfway. Steve Morris now. Ready. Picked it up beautifully. Popped it away for an intercept to Gitto. Boland. Flung into the ground by Graham Wynn. A hooded Magpie. Neal. Lamb. Smith. Donnelly. Quick passing by the Magpies, and this is Terry Lamb dancing around to Alan Neal. There's a gap presenting itself for Neal. Neal to the halfway line, sends Warren Boland on the inside. Boland swings it back to the outside. That's Gitto with the ball, and Gitto's still going and tackled now about 8 metres out from the St. George 22, and some of these St. George players are getting back fairly slowly. Alan Neal, Terry Lamb, a kick for Jim Lease. Lease and Rebo chasing, but Graham there takes it safely for St. George. Just out from his own quarter line, played by Graham. This is Finch. Craig Young calling for it. Morris. Morris. Still going, the little man, to the halfway line. Three smallest men on the field entangled there. Morris, Lamb and Neal. Jansen's pass to Reddy was a good one. And Reddy will play the ball just on the western suburb side of the halfway line. Steve Morris is still injured in the back play after taking quite a heavy tackle from Terry Lamb and Alan Neal. A floating pass for Philip Graham now. Just on the western suburb side of the halfway. West playing with 12 men. Paul Merlot sent off just a few minutes back. Graham Wynn. And that's the end of 6. And a scrum about 12 metres on the western suburb side of halfway. 10-9 in favour of St. George. He's over the halfway and down midway between the 22 and halfway line. Good break by the 5'8". Rebo. Smith looks at Jim Lease to go on the inside. Smith now to play the ball without any gain in ground. Ken Hay taken by Reddy and Buckley. 10 metres out from the 22 line. St. George's end of the field. St. George leading by a point in Channel 10's big game. It's with Bob Cooper now. And Cooper pops it round the corner. Jimmy Lease, I think he'll make it. Yes, it's a try. It's his second of the match. And I think it's number 9 for the year, is it? Referee Danzy ruling no try. Well, let me see that on the replay. Don't tell me they've blown this. Well, they obviously have. The pass from Cooper to Lease. And it's obviously been in the grounding of the ball. Johnson in for the tackle. Ah, well, he was tackled short and lost it short. Well, that's proven beyond any doubt by the replay that he was tackled a metre short. And though momentum was probably going to carry him across for the try, he lost it there. Right there he lost it as we came out of the freeze frame. And this is Michael Sorodimi. Tackled into touch by Jim Lease. 3 metres on the St. George side of the halfway. Well, what a moment. 10-9 in favour of St. George still. Penalty to West. Danzy indicating that St. George were collapsing the scrum. Harry Bath on camera, he's probably just as concerned as anybody else supporting St. George, because West, to my way of thinking, have looked the better side, but the scrum possession, the glut of possession in the second half, they've won 5 scrums of the only 5 decided. Jeffries across to Tom Arbour. Arbour's about 10 metres out and looking for support. Oh, he's lost it with the goal line practically there for the taking. Buckley now will play it inside his own 22 line. Jansen. By the same token, Tom Arbour was standing there virtually offering it, but the support just didn't arrive. That's why I tend to think that Jim Leach would be much better off. Well, he would have been better off back in the forwards, because he can run off those big men like Cooper and Donnelly and Arbour. But with that head injury, obviously Masters keener for him to play out in the less active part of the field. There he is across in cover, missing a tackle on Philip Graham. That ball went forward, and referee Danzy is going to put a scrum down. St. George by a point. 10-9, 17 minutes out. And they've won a scrum. Off the defence, playing it on the halfway line. Morris now, taking Reddy up with him. Morris almost through, just losing his footing. Terry Lamb making the save. Red now. St. George starting to make big inroads into the Western Suburbs defence. Dowling, Young, Morris is with him. And Young put it down, and he did too. He knocked on. There's no doubt about that. Just a little bounce of the ball. And this scrum is just outside the Western Suburbs 22 line. Buckley. Jansen. Least the tackler. Young. Reddy. Complete spin by Reddy, and then pop through Dowling over to, that's Tony Trudgett. Away goes John Dowling. Craig Young is on the ground, injured for St. George. Play is just inside the Western Suburbs quarter line. Reddy going to the right, then up the centre. Looks to turn it back, finds John Dowling. And they're 12 metres out from the Western Suburbs line as the sun again shines down on Lidcombe. A long pass out to Trudgett. Looks on the inside, finds Graham Wynn. A quick pair of hands out to Brian Johnston, the centre. And that's the end of 6. Good defence by Western Suburbs as St. George really made the ball do the work there. Crowd figures just announced. I think they said, yes, 17,492 is the official figure. Alan Neal now. I think Western Suburbs were worried about the crowd they would attract on a Saturday. I think there's your proof. You couldn't fit any more in anyway. And it's quite an argument against those that believe Saturday football is a thing of the past. Oh, a very big crowd here. Gitto. Cooper. Cooper back to Terry Lamb. And they're about 10 metres out from their own quarter line now. So St. George leading by 1 point as Ken Hay floats it out to John Rebo. Rebo takes it down towards the half. He's around his man. He's very fast. He's lost it. It was a good tackle, though, by the same token from Graham Wynn. But every time the Magpies get a sight of that goal line, they lose the ball. Oh, they've split St. George more today than I think I've seen any other two sides in this Sydney Premiership in 1980. Western Suburbs have really shown that St. George can be busted. Here's Buckley having a top game. Back to Tony Trudgett. They're playing with 2 5/8 really, St. George, with Buckley standing out of the pack. Ready. Over halfway. Picked up by Trudgett. And Western Suburbs in there hoping to get possession as they rake for it. Finch. Gitto and Lease, the two centres, making the tackle. Jansen. Jansen and Reddy appear to be doing more work in the second half than they did in the first. Morris. Dowling, Graham Wynn, I beg your pardon. And this is tackle number 5, and here's the last coming up now. Steve Morris. Just a chip. It could go out on the full. It has. And a scrum will go down just outside the Western Suburbs 22. Incidentally, the Dally M voting and publication of the progress points in the Daily Mirror will go into a freeze situation with the playing of this weekend's round. This is how it's done. The Dally M Superstar of 1980 and all other positional award winners will not be announced until the gala telecast on September 10. But voting, though it will continue by the judges, will not be published to keep the awards a secret until that night. Ken Hay now. 5 metres out from his quarterway line. Terry Lamb. A constant worry to St. George is Lamb. Smith. Lease. This is the last tackle for Western Suburbs. Neil. Chip over the top. Well placed too. Right in between three. Oh, Alan Neil has got possession back. Terry Lamb, he's gone within about 12 metres at the line, but that could have been the most sensational moment in Sydney League for 1980. Oh, St. George players getting some bad bounces, and Alan Neil in there figuring in the play still as Tom Arbour takes it about 12 to 15 metres out from the line. Gitto now. Offloads through Arbour. Now with Dallas Donnelly. Donnelly looks around and he finds Ken Hay, who's about 2 metres out from the line. Jeffries is the dummy half. A quick ball for Neil. He scores. That's a Magpie try and they can't deny that one. Black and white power. What a gutsy effort this is. 12 men, and they have again opened the Dragons up. Alan Neil's try, and why shouldn't he be the man to score it? After the chip through and then almost, well, in fact, getting possession back for his side. Alan Neil, why shouldn't he be the man to score what could well be a match-winning try? Ginger Meggs, they call him. We're 9 minutes out. Gitto from 18 metres out. Ah, he's kicked it around the corner on quite an angle. 14 points to 10 in this match in the last 9 minutes. They're giving a 4-point start. Wests 1 man down and have been since Paul Merlo was sent off. And that sensation. Here's Terry Lamb with another great break for Western Suburbs. That incident of Paul Merlo's came at the 54th minute. Hay to the halfway mark. Donnelly, Cooper, and I think Wests will be fairly content to try and shut this one down through the big men like this fellow, Tom Arbour. Gitto. 9 metres on the St. George side of the halfway. Donnelly, Rebo came from the left flank, knocked down by a St. George player, picked up by Lease, but the referee said it's gone on forward, and a dual knock-on. West ball, Neil, tackled by Morris. Cooper, 10 metres out from the 22. The order from Warren Boland out there, one of the good captains in Sydney Rugby League. A man whose praises I don't think are sung highly enough. I think his order has gone through this side. I want nothing flash, nothing stupid. If you can't get a safe ball away, just hang on to it. Gitto, a penalty to St. George. He did not release the ball when playing it forward. And I was talking about doing nothing stupid. 14-10 in favour of Western Suburbs. We're 7 minutes out from full time. Saradimi. Morris, Reddy. Reddy has split them, back and put down by Trudgett. A knock on, a scrum about 8 metres on the west side of halfway. I'll be interested to see the Western Suburbs tactics if St. George get down close to their line. I wonder whether they'll apply the old Parramatta tactic that they did here at Lidcombe in the first round. A penalty to Wests. That's feet across the scrum. But at the moment it's with the black and whites as they find touch as the timepiece comes down to 6 minutes out. Donnelly. I don't think there'll be a person game enough to deny that this Western Suburbs effort today has been almost superhuman. Full of oomph, and you know what it takes. Gitto. Cooper. John McLeod, by the way, I'm told reliably will be back for Wednesday night's Tooth Cup first semi-final against Parramatta. Terry Lamb's bomb came off a St. George player, back to a St. George player with Graham Wynn in possession. And so there's the timepiece now indicating that we're 5 minutes out. Young, Jansen, Reddy, who's come alive in the second half. That's forward a mile. A penalty to West. The forward pass there was from Reddy deliberately. Oh, must have been a meet. Jeffries, Donnelly, Cooper. Well, they can't get up any slower. Terry Lamb, a shot for drop goal. I think it's good. Yes, Terry Lamb has widened the gap. 15 points to 10 in favour of the men they call the Hungry Magpies. Watch this. Cool, calm and collected. Stepped around Reddy. Shot for goal, and sweet it is for Western Suburbs. 16-7 the scrums. My goodness. You'd think John Dowling went out there without any legs in the second half, wouldn't you? They can't get over that scrum count because in the Tooth Cup, St. George won the scrums, I'm sure, 2-1. Well, now Western Suburbs, the fans starting to realise that they're down inside the last 60 seconds with a 5-point lead, and it's all sweet sailing from here on in as they just continue to take it one man out. Consuming time. Why wouldn't they? They're a tired lot. There's only been 12 of them for the last 26 minutes anyway. And the scrum packing down about 15 metres away from the St. George quarter line. Incidentally, talking about John Dowling not winning many scrums in the second half, though he won that one, he's got the second best average of the hookers in Sydney. But today he's been thoroughly outpointed by the West's front row, 16-8. A loose ball, and it'll be a knock-on. And a scrum packing down just on St. George's side of the halfway, and I make it. We're in the last 5 seconds of this game now. There it is, full time. And what a roar! What a roar from the Magpie supporters of Lidcombe. 15 points to 10 in favour of the home side. It's a very jubilant Magpie team. They took this as a grand final, and those smiles and those clenched fists and the hugging, Masters in amongst it all. Well, the picture tells the story. I wonder, will it be a similar story in mid-September? The man of the match for you in just a moment. Suburbs 15, St. George 10 for Western Suburbs. Jim Lease a try at the 35th minute, and Alan Neal a try at the 69th minute, whilst Ron Gitto landed 4 goals from 5 attempts, and Terry Lamb that dropped goal. For St. George, Brian Johnston scored at the 25th minute, and Graham Buckley at the 55th minute of the game. Graham Wynn landing 2 out of 5, and Paul Merlot sent off for the second time in 1980, and ironically it was against St. George when he got his marching orders the first time, and Paul was sent off at the 54th minute of the game. So Western Suburbs, they've done it the hard way, but they've done it in magnificent fashion to win by 15 points to 10. You might have heard me make comments about the scrums. An unbelievable landslide scrum win to Jack Jeffrey, 16-8. And our man of the match for the electronic sales and rentals national people is Ginger Meggs himself. Alan Neal, congratulations.
Thanks very much, Ray.
Well, how's it feel?
Well, I'm a bit tired now after that, but it was all worth it, I think.
Certainly was, Alan. Was it as tough as though it was from the sidelines?
Well, it'll be one of the hardest games I've played in this year. Yeah, it would be. Very tough game. St. George are always a hard side to beat, and they didn't let us down today either.
The boys say that Jeffrey's 16-8. The scrums going his way. It must have been good to be feeding the scrums.
It was. That was one of Jack's best games this year, and I think he deserves a lot of praise for what he did, because that was against his old side, St. George.
How did it feel when Paul Merlot got sent off and you said, oh, geez, 26 minutes to go and 12 men?
Well, we just sort of took the bit between our teeth and thought, well, we're just going to do it. We're just going to beat them, and that's what we did.
Alan, congratulations, and I hope you enjoy your award.
Thanks very much, Ray. I'm sure I will.